go to some of the wide receivers here. Now, last week, I know we talked about like all of these Packers were out, all of the Buccaneers were out, and you and I both thought that Russell Gage was going to be that guy. He gets a touchdown. He had like 11 catches or something. I hit you up separately being like, I'm starting him over other players, and it worked. I know you were excited to see Russell Gage actually do it as well, yet he is still under 50% rostered. Here's what I want to ask you about him and some others. Now, is this really sustainable? You know, in Tampa Bay, you're going to have Julio and Godwin come back. Mike Evans will be off suspension. In other places, like I know you have a Cardinals wide out on it. Like we're going to see DeAndre Hopkins back in a few weeks. So how do you balance that in general with a guy who's having a great week, but could only be like a 1 week wonder based on other people returning to the lineup?
Look, I don't know if it's just me, but a lot of times I'm only looking in the short term, especially if I'm in this like situation where I need to stream a position. A lot of times I'm just playing the matchups, or I only need a guy for a couple weeks because someone's out this week or whatever it is. So, I mean, the thing is with Russell Gage, he's a guy that I think for seasons, no one has ever really given him credit for what he's done as kind of like the third receiver on a team. But he's kind of like in that Tim Patrick group where like he's just steady and he produces when he's given the opportunities. He's just not like the sexiest name. Now, to your point, yes, Mike Evans will be coming back from suspension, but there's a number of injuries on the Bucs that includes Julio Jones and Chris Godwin. They could be banged up all season. Like we may not see those two concurrently on the field again for the whole season. Like it just feels like, I mean, we saw Chris Godwin for like 5 minutes and he's gone. Like maybe he came back from that injury too fast, because I did read that there is a correlation between guys coming back from ACL injuries and dealing then with hamstring injuries. So this could be something that's like an ongoing type thing. And then Julio Jones is always hurt. So like that's just like, you know, he's a guy that I think Russell Gage is a guy that I think is worth rostering, because I don't know that Brady will ever have his full complement of receivers there. So he caught 12 of 13 targets, 87 yards and a touchdown. I mean, there were other receivers in the mix. Cole Beasley, I mean, they pulled him out of wherever, but Gage was the guy. So I like him. I don't expect him to see 13 targets moving forward, but he was involved the week before when Evans was on the field. So I think that he could easily grab that number 2 spot until Godwin returns. He is a wide receiver 3 flex, especially with the Chiefs, Falcons, and Tampa Bay on deck. Moving on to the Packers, the same kind of situation. I mean, we saw Christian Watson and Sammy Watkins sit out, which, by the way, Sammy Watkins coming in for like one good game and then leaving, like having a hamstring injury.
Sammy Watkins of him.
It's so Sammy Watkins. Like it almost takes a fantasy manager to know that, or maybe a Packers fan, but like that is just what he does. So, I mean, Christian Watson, I don't know that will be a long-term thing, but Dobbs is the guy that we were really hyping up, right? Like during the preseason, he hadn't necessarily lived up to that hype quite yet, but he had an amazing game in week 3. And the thing is, he's a rookie. Like, I don't know if people get very impatient. I feel like, especially with rookies, like there were people asking me, should I drop Damien Pierce after like week 1? These are real questions. And like the same thing, like I saw Dobbs get dropped in a lot of leagues just because people were like, oh, maybe he was just a preseason phenom that I don't need him. But it's like, I like this chemistry that seems to be brewing between him and Aaron Rodgers. They have technically a wide receiver 1 in Allen Lazard, but he's not Devontae Adams is the point. So I think that like if Dobbs could end up being the 2, like it's not a 2 on a normal team. Like he could end up really getting the same number of targets as Lazard and having serious upside on that team. I mean, he gets the Patriots, Giants, and Jets next. So it's a pretty good next few games for him. So like those 2 guys, for instance, like I don't think they're necessarily one-hit wonders.
Okay, fair enough. Listen, I mean, Russell Gage, you're right, has kind of been that under the radar third wide receiver. Back when he was with the Falcons, it was the same way. And, if at the beginning of the season, I told you you could have the second leading receiver on the Green Bay Aaron Rodgers pass offense, you take it, right? So it's just about trying to identify who that guy might be, whether it's Watson,
Exactly.
whether it's Dubs, whether it's Randall Cobb, for goodness sakes.